My computer shows we are live.
And we should be live.
Okay, is everyone with us, Mr. Greger?
Yes.
Okay, anyone, first of all, board members, you received, I would like to call the, gosh, I'm all out of order now that we've done this out of order. I would like to call the April meeting of the City of Akron Housing Appeals Board to order. Board members, you received the minutes of the previous meeting in the mail. Were there any additions, corrections, comments on the minutes? If not, they stand approved as mailed. Anyone who is testifying before the board this evening is asked to swear to or affirm their testimony. Mr. York, would you lead us through the process, please?
Yes. Okay, if you plan on testifying tonight, if you could please unmute your microphones. Attorneys appearing on behalf of the client do not need to swear in. Okay, it looks like we have everyone. If you plan on testifying tonight, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. And we did not see Mr. Drennan, but I'm assuming that he took part in the swearing process.
Yes.
Thank you. The board is hearing two kinds of cases tonight. The most common is those of properties that are being under consideration for being demolished. And we also have two appeals of orders. Jody, or Mr. Greger, are we hearing our appeal first or in sequence?
In sequence.
Thank you very much. And our first case is.
The case order will be as follows. We'll start with 1137 East Avenue. Then we'll move to 30 East Brookside. Then 697 Allen. Then 1292 Harmon. And then finally 601 Talbot. And I will be moving everyone except the first case back into the waiting room. And I will attempt to notify those of you in the waiting room what the next case will be as each case concludes.
All right, thank you. So everyone, safe travels back to the waiting room. So did you say East Avenue was the first case, Mr. Greger?
Yes, Jody, could you please stop sharing your screen until I complete moving people into the waiting room? Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Okay, would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, my name is Kennedy Spino. My address is 520. My current address is 525 East Avenue, Akron, Ohio.
And what is your interest in the East Avenue property?
Well, I spoke to Mr. Miller about the property, acquiring the property and purchasing it, and I'm going to be living there. And that I understand that there were about 17 or 18 things that need to be fixed. And I'm just here to convey that I will be living in the building and I will be taking those deficiencies and correcting them at my own expense. And asking for an extension of time to correct them. I have workers there at the present moment.
Okay, so you will be purchasing the property. You have not purchased it yet, is that correct?
Not a full purchase, not yet, no, no ma'am.
Okie dokie. Have any idea when you will take title to this?
Probably within the next few weeks. I wanted to make sure that this was done first before.
Wise
before
move.
that. Yeah,
Jody, can you present the case for us, please?
New case number 5867, 1137 East Avenue. There has been no compliance with housing orders issued against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized, dilapidated. It is tax delinquent, has been secured by the city, and is not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and the Housing Division recommends that it be demolished with all costs assessed. The exterior only of the property was inspected on April 15th, 2021. Repairs include replace the roof with a permit, provide missing gutters and downspouts, repair the front porch floorboards. The front porch steps are missing, add gravel to the driveway, missing window storms and screens, missing rear steps, missing and broken windows, repair the right rear foundation, repair rear siding, repair the rear entrance door threshold, repair the rear basement door, trim trees away from the house, repair the fascia and eaves, and secure the loose entrance cable.
And Jody, we have not been inside. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Anything there come as a surprise to you, Mr. Spino?
no, ma'am. I walked inside and it's actually, the outside is actually a whole lot worse than the inside is. The inside actually looks really good. There were no walls torn out or electrical ripped out or piping issues. We didn't have any of that. Most of the stuff on outside, if you don't mind, if I look at my email or my notes to tell what we have done, if you don't mind, give me 1 second.
Sure, please.
Okay, so we have corrected violations 1, 2, 3, 5, 12, 13, 14, and 16. We are working within the next 9 days. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15, and 18 will be done. At the present moment, that is where I am currently at as far as the construction goes on fixing everything at the house on the outside.
Sure. Questions from board members?
Are you, are you aware of the back taxes, about $6,500?
Yes, we are actually.
Okay. Just,
And once the case has come before us, all of the items are going to have to be brought back into compliance, interior and exterior. So Mrs. Forrester is going to have to get inside and be able to do an inspection there and issue any orders that might be appropriate for the inside of the house also.
Okay, is there a date for that or a time and a date I should ask for?
You can contact her and schedule a time that
Contact.
works for both of you.
All right.
If the board grants, if the board grants time, there's not been that
Yes,
decision.
granted. I just trying to dot my I's real quick.
Sure, absolutely. So if the board grants some time, first of all, Jody, let me ask you or Mr. Greger, do we have any history with our potential owner here?
I do not.
Okay, that's good news for you, sir.
Oh, well, that's great.
If the board grants time, what could you have done within the next 30 days?
I actually plan on having it the rest of the things that we don't have done, because I read a list off of things that we didn't. I think it was 8 articles that we didn't finish yet. I do plan on, like I said, finishing it in the next 9 days, because I would like to get this place livable and pass inspection and everything so I can live in the house.
Okay.
Can
Any
I
other,
ask, can I ask our petitioner to spell his name for me? Because with a
Um,
name like Dauberton, I try to be careful of everybody else's.
Sorry, you're talking to me?
Yes,
My,
sir.
it's Kennedy, like the president, Kennedy. Spino, Speno.
Speno. Okay, thank you, sir.
No problem.
Mr. Spino, do you have a permit for the roof?
Not this exact moment. That's one of the things that we are working on right now, going to get a permit and redo the roof and all the part of the, let me look at my notes. The holes that were in the roof and the roof that was over top of the porch. There were holes there, holes in the regular roof. That all needs to be fixed. So yes, we are getting to that.
Yeah, it requires a permit. Installing anything at that rear door, whether it be a porch or a set of steps, that will require a permit. Any structural repairs made to the front porch, that will require a permit.
Okay. May I ask, all right, I actually, thank you for that. I didn't know that. Thank you. For the back.
Yeah, I won't be able to approve any of the work that you've done without the permit.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
yes,
this is John York, with the Akron Law Department. Could I ask Ms. Forrester a question?
please.
Thank you. Does the siding require a permit as well, Ms. Forrester?
Just to repair and paint the siding does not require a permit.
Okay, there won't be any replacement going on.
If he decides to install vinyl siding over top of the house, then that would require a permit.
And foundation was okay, Jody?
There's some minor repairs that need to be made to the foundation. I don't believe that that the footer is involved, so it would not require a permit.
Board members, when I get a motion, could we please include in that an immediate interior inspection so that Jody can get in and go over anything that might be needed in there with Mr. Spino early on in this process? And are there any other questions?
No, not really. I was going to ask the exact permits that I needed for the rear porch, but besides that, no.
Well, you would have to talk with the Summit County Building Department.
Okay.
Let them
Thank
know
you.
what your intentions are, and they would tell you what permit you need.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate it. I apologize for my ignorance.
No problem. We'd rather have you ask the question so you know what you're doing and do it properly.
Yeah, because I don't want to invest and then get my house knocked down.
No, that's never fun.
No.
If there are no questions, is there a motion from the board?
Anybody up there? New case 5867. The property at 1137 East Avenue. I move we grant an extension until the May meeting to see the completion of all pending orders, to get an immediate interior inspection, to keep the property secure, free of debris, and a completion inspection before our next meeting.
And do we want a transfer of ownership?
I didn't hear him say that he was going to do that immediately, but
No, I wasn't going to do. I was gonna make sure that, because I want to transfer ownership and do all of this stuff, and then all of us be out of money and a home. So
Okay.
wanted to make.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Mr.
Mr.
Spino,
Spino.
yes. Stay in
Thank
touch
you.
with Jody. She's
I
gonna be
will.
your best friend.
I
Yeah.
will definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, contact her to schedule that interior inspection.
All right. Is there anything else you guys need from me or any questions or anything like that?
I think we're good right now. We will see you hopefully back here at our May meeting, and you can update us on your progress.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for your time. I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you.
You too.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the participants for 30 East Brookside. One moment.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Jody, could you present case 5845?
View case 5845, 30 East Brookside Avenue. At the Housing Appeals Board meeting of March 16th, 2021, the board granted an extension until the April 20th, 2021 meeting to complete the electric, start the drywall, make both bathrooms functional, repair the interior steps, paint the basement walls, install the hot water tank, repair kitchen plumbing, repair furnace, keep the property secure, keep the property free of debris, start probate, and schedule an interior inspection. The exterior only of the property was inspected today at 11:30. There had been no progress to the exterior repairs. The yard was mostly cleared of debris. And there were some windows that were stacked against the house in the driveway.
And we did not get an interior inspection, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, if you could give us your name and address for the record, please.
Ronald Drennan,
And address?
195 Willard Street, Akron, Ohio. What's the code? 44304.
Okay, Mr. Drennan, what happened to the interior inspection that you were supposed to have scheduled with Mrs. Forrester?
Well, like 2 weeks after the last hearing, I had went to jail years ago.
Okay,
And hold on, don't like.
okay.
Because I've realized that for the next 40 years and $100,000, the house ain't worth it.
Okay, Mr. Drennan, I think we lost your audio there for a few minutes. I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
I no longer want any. I no longer want any part of the house. You guys, as the city council, can take it up with US Bank about the house, because the house is theirs. The mortgage is to a deceased person. And yeah, so you guys can order it to be demolished or contact the bank to see what they want to do.
Okay, so you're kind of walking away from this property. Is that the idea?
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds like he's running away from it, actually. Yeah.
He's a straight
What?
I do believe
Oh.
the attorney for the bank is here for the meeting this evening also,
Oh, okay.
All right.
Mr. Tartar.
Is he with us, Dwayne? I don't see him.
Mr. Tartar was admitted. He was in the waiting room. He was admitted and now he is gone.
Okie dokie then.
Bathroom.
Everybody's walking away from this
I
property. All righty then. Are there
Well,
any,
But what I might recommend, Madam Chair, is maybe since we've already heard from Mr. Drennan, and he probably doesn't have anything more to add because his testimony is very absolute about what he's had to say. He could probably be excused and maybe move this one to the back of the agenda until Mr. Tartar appears, because he was here, and if he wants to be heard, I'd like him to get a chance to say what he has to say before you make a decision on this one.
sure, is that all right with the rest of the board?
It's okay with me.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okie dokie, we can do that. Mr. Drennan, thank you for coming tonight and letting us know that you've had a change of heart on this property. We will take the testimony that you have given us and we'll just hold our decision on this case until later on in our meeting in case Mr. Tartar decides to rejoin us. Mr. Greger, are you sending?
I'm gonna put Mr. Drennan, I was waiting to see if he was going to say anything. I'm gonna go ahead and put him back in the waiting room and then bring in Mr. Nickel for 697 Allen. One moment.
Is Mr. Nickel with us?
Yes, he is. We don't have a visual on him. Mr. Nickel, do you have a video?
Yeah, let me figure out where it went to turn it back on.
Okay, great. Jody, could you present 697 Allen, please?
New case 5865, 697 Allen Street. There has been no recent compliance with housing orders issued against this property, which is vacant, dilapidated, and not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and the Housing Division recommends that it be demolished with all costs assessed. The exterior only of the property was inspected on April 15th, 2021. Repairs include provide a permit and approval for the roof, permit and approval for the rear porches, install siding with a permit, install gutters and downspouts, repair the front service step handrail, add gravel to the driveway, missing screens for the windows, and paint the trim, missing storm doors.
Okay, Mr. Nickel, could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
My name is David Nickel. My mailing address is 3002 Riverview Court, Aliquippa, PA 15001.
Okay, and what's the story on this Allen Street property?
I originally purchased this property for my daughter to live in when she attended the University of Akron. And prior to purchasing it, I went to the Summit County and asked if I needed to be a contractor to work on the house, and they told me I did not. So then I came over and I tore the roof off, and then I went to get the building permit and they would not give me one. So then since I tore the roof off, I replaced the roof. In the process of tearing the siding off, somebody took the rest of the siding. So then again, I went to the board or the Summit County to get a building permit, and they would not give me a building permit since I did not live at the residence. I reached out to several contractors in the area and not been very successful in finding a contractor that was willing to put siding on that was half started that I've already purchased. So I went back to the Summit County and asked them if I could put the siding on. And they told me under no circumstances, no. So to comply with the orders, the house is airtight and watertight. I used to stay at the house occasionally when I visited my daughters, who live about a block away. But I agree, it does not look very pretty, but it should have been sided by now. I should have never tore the other siding off. In preparing to make it airtight, the old windows were all rotted or whatever, and whenever I tried to repair them, they basically fell out because it has vinyl replacement windows. So
So
there's really not a
what's
whole
your,
lot wrong with the interior. So I think it'd be crazy to tear it down. I would beg the board to let me take the summer to side it, and I will pay a crazy contractor $20,000 for something I could do for 10 so that I could be in compliance. But
what's your intention for the house?
my daughter was going to live in it, and now it's just to sell it because I don't want to keep fighting with you guys. And
Okay, so you'd
I never
like to,
registered it as a rental because it was never a rental. So I recently went back and paid 2 rental fees. It was never intended to be a rental. I have 2 other rentals in Akron, but this house was never intended to be a rental.
yeah, not, properties that are not owner occupied are considered rentals, so.
Okay, well, I did go back and I've
Yep.
paid the last year's and this year's rental, which, like I said, it doesn't seem to make sense since it's not, I don't know. I guess we all have daughters that live in our houses. I don't know. I don't know. I won't fight that. It's $50 or $60. And like I said, I don't want to be competitive because I am in the fault. I've owned the house 3 years now and it's not done, and that's it. That is bad. So
When you purchased this property, which I think was in 2015, were you aware of the housing orders on it at the time?
no, the first house I ever bought. The only reason I own the other one is because after we looked at this house, it wasn't suitable to put my daughter in, so we bought a house a block away. And then I fixed it up enough to stay in and put the roof on it. But after like I said, I took a week off of work. I came over, I tore the roof off on a Friday night, resheeted it and put paper down on a Saturday and a Sunday. And I went to the Summit County on a Monday and they told me they wouldn't give me a permit because I wasn't a licensed contractor. So he said, well, I have to finish the roof because it would destroy the property. And they told me not to do any more work. So I didn't do any more work on the outside other than, I changed the 2 doors and cased in the windows so that they wouldn't leak.
And Jody, on this one, we also need an interior. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Questions from board members?
Mr. Nickel, curious, when they wouldn't give you a permit because you didn't have a contractor, did they offer you the option of taking a test to get an owner's permit? That used to be available for electrical and plumbing type work. But that's been a
No,
while.
I actually didn't ask for anything on the interior, sir. I just asked for that. They told me I could, it was real easy to get my contractor's license. I could do this and that, and all I needed to do was get bonded. I probably should have done that. I looked into it. It was probably $6,000 or $7,000, and I convinced myself that it probably wasn't worth it to do it. In hindsight, I wish I would have, because the outside would be done by now. Probably wouldn't be talking to you guys. So. I have got several bids to put siding on it. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of contractors who want to put siding on it when you already have the materials.
Yeah.
And the ones that do, tell me I don't need a permit and that the city of Akron will not know about it. So
Oh, good.
I'm already
Yeah.
on that point. So I have had a bunch of offers from people to do the siding, but they all want to do it without a permit.
No, those are
Don't
not
do it.
people you want to deal with.
Is it just me or I just lost part of the screen?
Green, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Also, Mr. Nickel, in Akron, it's a law that if you own property, you don't live in it, it is technically classified as rental property and you have to register it every year for a whopping $15. The other thing is, if you don't live in Summit County or adjacent to, you are required to have a representative somewhere nearby so that if anybody from the city needs to contact someone about the house, there is someone locally that they can deal with. So keep that in mind.
Well, I have we registered the first year we bought it. And somewhere in between, poor communication with my wife and myself, the second year we didn't register it. And we listed, my daughter lives on Thornton Street, about a block away from there. So we used her as that. And I said, I recently went back. I paid 2021s and 2020s registration just recently. So
Yeah.
So, Mr.
when I
Nickel,
paid
if
21s, they told me I didn't pay 20s, so we paid them. I said $60 because it's because of the other houses I rent by the room to their friends. That will all go away shortly.
And all the taxes and penalties have been paid, I noticed.
Yeah, I'm not trying to
And-
skate it. I just wanted to.
Well,
do the
no,
work
no,
myself.
that's just a point in your favor. And it's
Okay.
just,
And I was going to bring that up. I go over every 2 weeks and cut the grass and clean it up. I've had a lot of troubles with COVID of getting back and forth since my employer isn't real keen about me crossing lines and everything. And we have to report every time we go out of state, and then I'm not allowed to go to work. So picture you got here, obviously the blue board that we put up isn't meant to be an exterior surface, so it's all got to come down and the siding will go up. But
Mr. Nickel, if the board grants an extension, how long do you think it's going to take to fix this?
I guess as soon as I can find a contractor that can pull a permit. I will rewrap the house and make it pretty, like without the falling blue board coming off, but I would say a month or two. The weather's broke, so I should be able to find a siding contractor.
Well,
to decide it.
I just need to add in there that you still need to have a permit for the roof and for the porches. Those both have to be inspected by the building department additionally.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Other questions from board members? Also, Mr. Nichols, since this property has come before this board, all orders have to be complied, and that would include anything that is interior. So Mrs. Forrester would have to do an interior inspection to see if there's anything on the inside that needs to be brought into compliance. That
okay.
if there are no other questions from the board, is there a motion?
If you guys could grant me the rest of the summer or the end of the summer or 3 months, I'll take whatever I can get and do the best I can. Do not believe the house needs to be destroyed. It's a sound house, just ugly on the outside.
Well, and if we have salvageable houses, the board always would like to try to save them. We just can only save it with this appearance for so long.
Understood.
Yeah. And first time, we don't usually grant 90-day extensions or whatever, but you seem to have tried to do all the right things, including paying the taxes and penalties. If nobody else has a motion, I'll make one. New case 5865, the property at 697 Allen Street. I move we grant the owner an extension till our June meeting to allow to complete all exterior orders, get a immediate interior inspection, to pull all appropriate permits, to keep the property secure, free of debris, and schedule a complete inspection before our June meeting.
Second.
There's- Before I ask for a vote, Mr. Nichol, did you get what the motion was?
Yes, ma'am. When is the June meeting?
It's the third Tuesday. I'd have to look up the date, but it's,
That's enough for me.
Yeah. And Mr. Nichol, my intent is, gives you 2 months to show good progress is what we're looking for here. And
Okay.
it's not that you can't get more time after that if the inspector says, yes, you're doing good work and you have a reason to need a little more time.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Mr. Dauberton, then let me ask before we vote on the motion. The motion was to complete the exterior. Is that still your intention, or do you want significant progress on the exterior?
Well, let's see, 2 months, he needs roof, siding.
The roof's done, sir.
Oh, you don't have to redo it with a permit?
I hope not. It's a brand new roof. And that
Okay,
was, my next question would be, Jody, do I just ask a contractor to come and book a permit, or can I have what's there inspected? I mean, the work is sound. I was willing to pay for it.
I would think that your best case scenario would be to find a general contractor locally that's willing to obtain those permits for you.
Okay.
Because in general, a general contractor can pull all the necessary permits, and then what they usually do is sub out all the work. So if you're willing to find somebody that's willing to sub the work out to you, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. I just have to find somebody that's willing to
okay.
charge me for the permit.
Mhm.
And you said porches. There's only one porch.
Well,
So
the other side was enclosed.
the back, you mean?
Yeah, at the right rear, that was enclosed.
Okay,
So that would require to be inspected by the building department. And then that porch support structures were replaced on the open porch,
okay.
and that requires an inspection.
All right. Well, the back porch was always enclosed. That's why I was curious. It had a flat roof and I made an angle on it. So that's,
Mr. Dauberton, I think we can let your motion.
Stand, because we
Stand.
can always grant another extension, yeah.
all right. So
Did I
Hey,
get a second?
Second.
you did have a second.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck, Mr. Nichol. We will talk to you in June.
All right.
Yeah, so stay in touch with Jody. You're the kind of owner we'd like to have in our city.
Yeah, make sure you schedule an interior inspection right away so she can tell you what needs to be done in there, if anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck.
you. Good luck.
You.
Put Mr. Nichol back in the waiting room, and I'm going to bring in Mr. Tarter, who is now.
Oh.
Are you with us, Mr. Tartar?
While we're waiting, Mr. Carter represents the bank? Question mark.
There he is.
Hey, Mr. Tartar, can you hear us?
I think he just bumped himself out again.
I think we lost him.
Yeah, he'll need to come in and activate a microphone. He did not have his microphone activated when he came in that time, so we could see him, but we could not hear him. So
And this is for which address?
Brookside.
Brookside? Okay, wanted to make sure.
Are we trying to bring him back, Wayne?
he is not back in the waiting room, so
Oh,
perhaps I could go ahead and bring in Holly Lucas for the 1292 Harmon case.
Hey.
Okay, let me switch pictures here. Okay, we ready? Okay, review case 5823, 1292 Harmon Avenue. At the Housing Appeals Board meeting of March 16th, 2021, the board granted an extension until April 20th, 2021 to complete the sale, keep the property secure, keep the property free of refuse, have the new owner appear with a 30, 60, 90-day plan for repairs. The exterior only was inspected on April 15th, 2021. There had been no change to the property. The yard is clean, the property is secure, but it has not transferred title and the repairs have not been started.
okay. Attorney Lucas, would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Certainly. It's Holly Lucas. Address is 1071 Kingsway Street, Alliance, Ohio, 44601.
And your interest in this property is?
I am the attorney representing the administrator for the estate of Samuel Lee Biggers.
Okay, so what happened in the last 30 days?
Last 30 days, we had a slight hiccup with getting a authorization and a waiver from one of the beneficiaries, which delayed things a little bit as far as the sale of the property. Purchase agreement and all documentation is now been provided to First Meridian Title. We'll be handling the closing for the sale of the property, and it is set to close with the purchase agreement stated for April 30th. I did receive documentation and a summary from what will then be the new owner, which is Bernard Lewis. And that at the last hearing, I believe I had provided his name. And I believe there was the search that was completed where his name did not pull up in a negative way. And so he did provide an outline that his first order of business will be to replace the garage door, to put a new roof on the garage. And he will be doing new siding on the garage. It will be a new roof on the house, paint on the exterior of the house. And then as far as the interior improvements are concerned, he will be doing a new furnace, a new water heater. It will basically be a gut of the kitchen and the bathrooms and remodeling both of those, with then also updated light fixtures. New carpet, new paint, and cosmetic updates on the inside.
Okay, did he give, if I understood, initially, like within the first 30 days after he has title to the property, the first things he's going to do is the garage.
The garage. I think
okay.
the garage, I think, was the biggest concern. I know one for the committee as far as just it being secured, making certain that there was no ability for animals to get in. And although it has been secured, to be perfectly candid, could be secured in a way that is not an eyesore and looks a little better for the street and the community. And so that was going to be his first order of business, was attending to the garage.
And you said it should transfer the end of the month, is that?
Correct. Yes, we're set to close with First Meridian title at the end of the month.
Questions from board members?
Yes, is Mr. Lewis local?
He is local, yes. He is from the Akron area.
And I think you said, and it was just your understanding, I believe, don't know for sure, but you think that his intention is to fix and flip. Is that
correct?
Okay.
Correct.
Jody, have there been any recent complaints or neighborhood concern about the property since we last met?
I have not received any new complaints.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? It's not a huge amount, I don't think, if I'm remembering correctly, but there is some past due taxes on this property. Is Mr. Lewis aware of that?
He is, and actually those are being paid by the end of this week. That was part of the agreement with that, is that he would pay back taxes as well as then the purchase price. So that's being taken care of as well.
Great, thank you.
I believe it's approximately $2,700.
That's more than I was showing in my notes. So, okay.
800 roughly.
You had 800?
757 cents.
Let's see here.
Well, that's because there were additional taxes from this year
Right.
that went on. This research was done in September of 2020.
Yeah.
Right. So
So
yeah, we were including everything up to.
Any other questions from the board, or is there a motion? Board members?
Yeah, I don't want to feel like I'm the only one at this meeting.
Well, I don't want you to
Right.
be in that position either, but I would like a motion from somebody.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll go through this.
Thanks,
Okay.
Kathy.
Okay, review case 5823-1292 Harmon Avenue. We'd like to give an extension of 30 days till our next meeting, which is April, May, which would be the May meeting, for the sale to be complete, property secured, property free of refuge. Also, which we were supposed to get, was the 30, 60, 90-day plan this month. We didn't get, but we need that from the new owner. And I'm assuming, is that?
Okay, so it's the motion is 30 days to complete the sale.
complete
Have the
sale?
new owner appear with his 30, 60, 90-day plan.
Right,
Keep the property secure and free of refuse.
right.
But significant progress on the garage.
No, he's,
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
he needs to have ownership first.
right.
So we don't know. Hopefully he will start that.
And they're saying that they should have this in a week or so, so it should be done by then.
Yeah.
Is that sufficient enough?
Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Ms. Jones? Board Member Jones, this is John York.
Hello?
Didn't you say you were abstaining on this one?
Yeah, I just coughed. I'm sorry. I drink some water.
Okay. Yeah, so there was one abstention, Madam Chair.
Abstention. All right, thank you. Motion carries. Good luck, Miss Lucas. I hope this
Thank
finally
you.
closes this time.
I was gonna say, well, it's been a pleasure seeing you every month. Hopefully not again. So
Yeah,
thank you.
it's been nice while it lasted, but we don't want it to go on for much longer.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Thank you. I appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to bring Mr. Tartar back in. I'm going to move, Holly Lucas has removed herself. One moment.
I'm sorry, guys. It caught me with a gulp of water in my throat, and I couldn't say anything.
Okay, we're going to try Brookside again.
Okay.
Mr. Tartar, are you with us? You're muted.
I should not be.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Let me just read the case back into the record. real
Yes, I was going to ask if you would do that.
We're going to continue review case 5845 30 East Brookside Avenue.
Okay, Mr. Tartar, we heard earlier from Mr. Drennan, who had been talking to us about this property since the beginning of the year, and he informed us that he now no longer wants anything to do with this house and he's walking away from it.
I heard the testimony. I was able to listen to the proceedings through the live streaming on YouTube. I've had some extreme technical difficulties, and I'm glad to be able to join you this evening. I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to do so.
We're happy to have you. Could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, ma'am. John Tartar, 3962 Red Bank Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45227.
And what is your interest in the property at 30 East Brookside?
U.S. Bank, my client holds mortgage on the property. The former debtor, Brooke Keller, is deceased. As a result, the property is somewhat stuck in a twilight zone at present. We had been in communications with Mr. Drennan and had hoped to assist him in his stated effort to acquire title to the property. My client was even prepared to talk to him about a loan assumption or those things that would be necessary to get him in the place that he needed to be in order to comply with the board's orders with regard to renovation. But I'm surprised to hear this evening, even in spite of the fact that I have tried to reach him on a number of occasions about his intentions, that he's no longer interested in pursuing those goals. It kind of puts us in a bad position, as the board is very well aware. Ms. Forrester's been good enough to share with me all of the issues that pertain to this property. I have shared those with my client. My client has expressed some concerns about addressing them in that it does not have title to the property. The owner, of course, Ms. Keller, is deceased. There are avenues for property preservation that would be available through my client that would probably address some of these issues. I have not had a chance to discuss these with my client at this time because they were going on the assumption that Mr. Drennan was going to continue to be involved with it. So I think at this particular point, assuming the board would indulge me, I'd like to have 30 days in order to address Mr. Brennan's withdrawal and any property preservation efforts that might be made in coordination with Forrester and the Codes Enforcement Office.
And who specifically is your client?
U.S. Bank, the mortgage holder on the property.
Okay. That's what I show.
And you are aware from Ms. Forrester of all of the orders on the property? I think you said.
I cannot say that I'm aware of all of the orders, but she has provided me with a punch list of issues that need to be addressed.
Okay. Jody, do we have interior orders on this?
Let me look back at the,
Yeah, I think I'm,
Don't see
so
it.
with the exception of the fire damage, we do not have interior orders. But I have performed numerous interior inspections, and the list I provided to Mr. Drennan and to Mr. Tarter include the interior repairs.
okay. Thoughts from the board? I think this caught us all by surprise this evening, Mr. Carter. We had,
Yeah.
we were assuming that there was going to be.
Progress.
Yeah.
Progress, but not the right way.
However, maybe this just kept it from dragging on longer with little progress. If there are no questions for Mr. Tarter. Oh, Mr. Dobberton, you have a question?
I was just going to try to impress upon Mr. Carter that let his customer know there has to be some movement on this property, because we just can't allow it to sit and molder.
Understood. And certainly that doesn't inure to my client's interest. The value of the security interest in the property declines with its continued deterioration. Property preservation is an attempt to address that and to reverse it, or at least stabilize the situation. The loan is in default. Eventually, the property is going to be foreclosed upon. But I guess the question becomes, what can we do in the interim to keep the property intact so that it has greatest value at resale and a judicial sale?
Has your client evaluated the property as to its marketable value?
No.
Versus the outstanding debt on it?
No, I mean, there's been no appraisal or BPO.
That's
They'll just have to determine whether it's worth keeping on their books, I guess.
Yes.
Do you have a motion, Mr. Dobberton?
Oh, just for you, Madam
Thanks.
Chairperson. Review case 5845, the property at 30 East Brookside Avenue. I move we grant an extension to the May meeting to, well, I gotta ask, do you think the bank is going to be able to complete a takeover in 30 days? Mr. Carter?
It's Tarter, T with a T.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and the best that the bank could do would be to engage a third-party vendor to preserve the property and address some of these concerns. Actually taking title in 30 days, that's an impossibility in all honesty.
That's what I was thinking. So what would we say? Engage property preservation efforts? So May meeting to engage property preservation efforts. Jody, do you need to get inside?
No.
Okay. Keep the property secure, free of debris. And if you don't need to get inside, we probably don't need another inspection. Just report back to this board.
For a second,
Second.
any discussion?
Hate to see a decent house go away because of time lags. But, yeah.
Hey, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Good luck, Mr. Tartar.
Thank you. And I'll keep in touch with Ms. Forrester about our progress and intentions.
Great.
Terrific.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, there is no one else in the waiting room to appear.
There's nobody here for the appeal?
No, Mr. McGee was here for the initial swearing in. It did not appear that he swore in, but when everyone was moved back into the waiting room, he disappeared. So there's no one left in the waiting room other than Mr. Nicole, whose case has already been heard.
And Mr. McGee probably didn't swear in because I believe he's an attorney,
Well,
but I cannot explain why he is, would not be. Obviously.
Well, I guess we will proceed without Mr. McGee.
Do we want to go ahead and hear the appeal cases then?
I would, well, Mr. McGee is now in the waiting room. He's probably been watching on YouTube and decided he wasn't going to wait around in the waiting room. So he's now here if you'd like me to bring him in.
Yes, please. Mr. McGee, can you hear us? You are muted. We can't hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Thanks for sticking around for us. Jody, could you,
Yes, we have two appeal cases. We'll start with the case that was continued from a previous hearing. That is appeal case 0521601 Talbot Avenue. This property was inspected on December 21st, 2020 in response to a complaint. Violations of the City of Akron Environmental Health Housing Code, Chapter 150 were noted, and orders dated December 21st, 2020 were served. An appeal of the orders was received on January 7th, 2021. At the Housing Appeals Board meeting on February 16th, 2021, the continuance was granted until the April 20th, 2021 meeting for all orders except the permits.
okay, Mr. McGee, could you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Michael McGee. My mailing address is 108 Main Avenue, Suite 500, Warren, Ohio, 44481.
And, okay, so you were appealing the orders that were written for this property 601 Talbot. So all except order number 8. Would you like to tell us why you believe the orders are not proper?
So the furnace was taken care of, and I guess that's that issue is not before the board anymore. The other issues if the board will recall, at the February meeting, I had explained in quite a bit of detail about how the tenant would not let us into the property.
Oh,
She's very
yeah.
hostile. You know, I don't think you want me to go over all that again, but I mean, she's very hostile. We're in the process of evicting her so that we can get in and address or inspect, decide if we agree with the notice of violations that we received, and then repair anything that needs repair. We've filed the eviction, and we have a hearing on the eviction on April 27th, which I think is about 7 days from now. I anticipate that she will be evicted at that time. And then it typically takes about 5 to 10 days to get the bailiff to schedule a set out where we can get in there, take physical possession of the property. And then based on the list, assuming that everything on the list is correct, I really don't think it's going to take more than a week, maybe 2, to get the repairs done.
Hey, Mr. McGee, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying, these are not, I'm not addressing the merits of the alleged violations. What I'm saying is that additional time is necessary. But there's one other thing that I'd like to point out. Zeus Properties does not own this building any longer. It's been sold. There's a company called Kronos Properties that now owns the building. Kronos is going to try and do all the things that I just described about getting in there, and it's actually Kronos that has filed the eviction and is removing the tenant. So that April 27th date is an eviction of Kronos Properties versus Keisha Higgins, the tenant.
Do you have an address and a contact person for Kronos Properties?
Yeah, well, I'm the contact person, and the address is 1051 Post Office Box 1051, Warren, Ohio 44482.
Hey, Mr. McGee, I maybe should know this, but don't. So I'm going to ask. You've started this eviction process. How does that work in this COVID world of non-evicting people?
Right. Okay. So the CDC moratorium, I'm not going to go into like the specifics of whether it's constitutional or not. We're going to skip over that if that's okay.
Please.
And I'll just get to the practicalities of how it works in the Akron Municipal Court, because that's where the eviction's pending. The CDC moratorium only applies to evictions for non-payment of rent. So if a landlord's evicting for some other reason, the CDC moratorium does not apply.
Oh, okay.
Kronos is evicting this tenant because her lease expired, and she's a holdover tenant, so she's just staying in the property without having the benefit of a lease and without surrendering possession to the property owner. So the eviction complaint does not mention anything about rent or back rent. I mean, she does owe rent, but we're skipping that and sort of just taking the hit so we can get her out of there, so that we can fix the property, get it up to a nice condition again, and then probably rent it out to somebody else.
Okie dokie.
And by the way, the eviction hearings are, I'm sorry, the eviction hearings are being conducted by Zoom, just like your board hearings are at the Akron Municipal Court. And I've handled a couple of them by Zoom over the last few months, and I don't really anticipate any problems with the eviction proceeding.
Ms. Forrester?
Yes, I just wanted to note that it may take a little more than a week to make necessary repairs to the property. The electric is in really bad shape and needs to be thoroughly gone over by a licensed electrician.
Well, okay, maybe it'll take 30 days or more.
Mr. York.
Ms. Forrester's been in the property, and I have not been in the property because of the problem with the tenant. So it's hard for me to speak to the specifics there.
Mr. McGee, how were you able to, I assume so, how were you able to do the furnace repair with this contentious tenant?
Well, I talked this over a little bit with Ms. Forrester. I sent an HVAC technician over there that is not affiliated with any of my companies, is not my employee or anything like that. He just works for an HVAC company, in the hopes that she would let him in and not bother him. And I guess it turned out okay. I wasn't there. And all I got was a secondhand report from the company that said that she didn't bother him.
Okay. Mr. York, I guess my question is, what we have before us is an appeal of the orders. It appears that Mr. McGee is not really objecting to the orders or saying that the orders are improper because he doesn't really know, he hasn't been in the property. He just needs a little bit more time to be able to get into the property. So what would be our response to
Well,
this case?
I'm not sure. It sounds like if he gets into the property and if he makes the repairs, he may withdraw his appeal at a later time. But it sounds to me like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. McGee, but it sounds like you're asking for a continuance of your hearing at this time so that you can, figure out what's going on at the property and then repair the conditions that are in violation.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
So you're actually asking for your appeal to be continued until next month, I presume?
Well, 30 or 60 days. I guess if I get 60 days, I could probably get everything done and get Ms. Forster or somebody in there to reinspect. If I only get 30 days, I'll probably just get to the point where I've got some substantial improvement, but I may not be able to get all the repairs done in 30 days. So yeah, I'm asking for 30 to 60 days extension.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Dwayne Greger, Housing Administrator. Because from his own testimony earlier, unless I misheard, Mr. McGee is not denying the appropriateness of the orders. Unless
I think he's saying that
misheard.
he doesn't know whether they are or not.
Okay. Well, the Housing Division's position is that the orders were correct as written. They were properly served, and we recommend that the appeal be denied.
Well, to that point, Zeus Properties doesn't own the building anymore. It's Kronos Properties. Kronos Properties hasn't been served with anything. So, I mean, if we're going to get technical about those kinds of issues, on the one hand, I'm asking for an extension, but on the other hand, I mean, if the board is going to oppose an extension, or not the board, but if the department's going to oppose an extension, I'm going to point out that Kronos hasn't been served.
Well, to that point, this appeal was filed by Zeus Properties because these orders were issued to Zeus Properties when Zeus Properties owned the property. Zeus Properties was granted a continuance, and that's why we're hearing this case again.
And Mr. McGee and Mr. York, correct me if I am misstating, but I believe if the board denies the appeal, because the appeal is actually stating that the orders are not proper. If the board denies the appeal, believing that they are proper, all that means is the orders are proper. So you just need to get in and fix them, and you can work with Ms. Forrester on the timing of that. So if it takes as long as getting the tenant out of the property and then you're getting in there and, checking and doing the work, our denying the appeal doesn't affect that. It just says, no, really, the orders are proper. You just need to go fix them. Then you can work with the housing division on the time it takes to get in and get them fixed. Is that correct, Mr. York? Our denying the appeal doesn't say anything other than.
If you were to deny the appeal, you would effectively be saying the orders were proper, in any argument that either the current owner or Zeus raise against those orders would be precluded, be over. I guess just for Mr. McGee's education, the housing code actually requires a seller to give written notice to a buyer of outstanding orders when they sell the property. So it was an obligation of Zeus to provide notice to Kronos. And the housing code says that even if the seller fails to notify the buyer, those orders are still enforceable.
I get that. I knew that before you explained it to me, but thank you. And Kronos is aware of the orders, and Kronos is sort of trying to do the same thing that Zeus had been trying to do before, which is get into the property through an eviction because of this difficult tenant and address the issues. To Mr. Greger's point, I'm not admitting that the alleged violations are correct. We filed the appeal denying them because I can't get in to confirm whether I agree with the orders or not. And I'm asking for some additional time from the board in order to do that. Mr. York is correct that once we get in there, assuming that we agree, we're going to take care of these problems and we're going to withdraw the appeal. I think he mentioned that a few minutes ago, and that's correct.
So, Mr. York, the board tonight, as I see it, has three choices. We can grant his appeal, in which case we're saying the orders were not proper. Is that correct? If we grant his
Well,
appeal?
you haven't heard the merits of his appeal yet. So first, I would say the first order of business is he's asked for an extension of his hearing. Are you going to agree to bump it a month or two? Or are you going to hear the appeal tonight?
When Mr. McGee, Mike Dalverton, if whether or not you have an appeal on record, and let's say you don't, let's say we deny the appeal and make it moot at this point, all you have to do is negotiate with the housing inspector, or in this case, Ms. Forrester, who I think is shown to be a very reasonable person. Most owners resolve these things without writing appeals and having to appear before us every month. I'm going to be here anyway, doesn't matter to me, but once you get in there and you find whatever you find, if you let Ms. Forrester know, you can work out something with her as far as the timing goes. And as long as you make significant progress, she's always been reasonable. She can always bring it back to us.
Well, Mr. Dauberton, I agree with you, and I do find her reasonable typically on timing issues. But let's say that I get in there and out of 5 issues, I agree on 4 issues with Ms. Forrester, and then there's one issue that I really strongly disagree, and I've got a really good basis for disagreeing with it, at least in my own opinion. I wouldn't be able to bring it to the board's attention if I can't convince Ms. Forrester that I'm right. And reasonable people can disagree on some things, especially when it comes to buildings. Just because Ms. Forrester and I disagree on a point doesn't mean she's unreasonable or I'm unreasonable. It's just two people with different opinions. So I have to preserve my ability to do that. And I think that the appeal deadlines are only 10 days, So when I call Ms. Forrester or I send her a letter asking right after we get a notice saying I need additional time, if she agrees and gives me, say, another 30 or 60 days on something, but then I have a disagreement with her about whether something needs done or not, the 10-day deadline for appealing it is already long past. And so I'm stuck with what the statute says about these appeal deadlines.
Mr. McGee, are you relatively certain that within the next 30 days, you would be able to get into that apartment?
Yes. I can't see any reason why the court would deny the eviction that's pending right now and scheduled for the 27th.
Roll it over.
So,
and it's my intention, really. I mean, it's my intention to get in there, hopefully determine that I agree with everything that Ms. Forrester said, and then get it fixed. And then I can come back at the next hearing if you'd like, and explain to you all the repairs that I did, or I can just tell Ms. Forrester and she can report back to the board, or however that works. But it's not like I'm trying to get out of repairing this building. I want to repair the building. I really do. I want it to be a nice house so somebody can live in there and enjoy the neighborhood.
So the question for the board is, are you willing to grant a continuance to Mr. McGee until our May meeting to allow him to get into the property and see what's going on, see if what we feel or what the housing division feels needs to be repaired, actually needs to be repaired.
Seems like the fair thing to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, then,
We need a motion.
we need a motion for a continuance. Is that correct, Mr. York?
Correct.
On the first order, that 05. Appeal case 0521, the property at 601 Talbot Avenue. I move we grant a continuance until the May meeting to allow the owner to gain access, review or repair all things, and get in contact or get an inspection for Jody. Get an schedule an
Interior.
inspection. Yeah.
Second.
Okay, before I put this to a vote, again, Mr. York, I'm sorry to keep asking you questions, but either that or I've got to go get a law degree. Are we, because Mr. McGee says Zeus Properties doesn't own this property anymore, are we okay with this motion for a continuance?
Yeah, because he still has they still have the appeal right on the orders. So yeah, you could grant the continuance.
Okay, we're granting a continuance though to someone who doesn't own the property.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we will see you on this in a month, Mr. McGee. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Is there,
Oh, one
is there
more.
a second case pending that's
Yeah,
on?
yeah.
Because
Don't
I
leave yet.
think Mr. York or somebody mentioned that.
Yes, the new appeal is appeal case 0522, 601 Talbot Avenue. This property was inspected on March 15th, 2021 in response to a complaint. Violations of the City of Akron Environmental Health Housing Code, Chapter 150 were noted, and orders dated March 15th, 2021 were served. An appeal of the orders was received on March 25th, 2021.
Okay, Mr. McGee, this is a new case, so for the record, could you give us your name and address, please?
Yes, Attorney Michael McGee, mailing address is 108 Main Avenue, Suite 500, Warren, Ohio, 44481. And Ms. Williams, I'd like to incorporate everything I said before in the last case to the.
Okay, so the
And-
order,
And in addition to that, Kronos has not been properly served with the notice on this. But hopefully we can address this case the same way that we did the last one, because it's the same house.
yeah, okay. So the order is to provide
Orders
heat.
were served to Kronos Properties because that was the titled owner at the time of the inspection.
Yeah, my paperwork shows that the appellant is Kronos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the appellant's Kronos, but Kronos did not receive these at its business address. Kronos did not receive this at its statutory agent address. We just didn't get it.
That was the address that appeared on title. So it was the address that we had. The county, that's the address that the county had listed as the tax mailing address for Kronos Properties.
Well, it's not correct.
You may need to take that up with the county.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
could I ask Jody if the orders were posted?
Yes, the orders were posted at the property.
Could you give a date for that, please?
Yes, that was on March 16th, 2021 by myself.
Those orders, the orders were served, and I would also offer the fact that the orders were appealed also means that they were.
No,
and could you identify yourself, please, Mr. Greger?
Wayne Greger, Housing Administrator.
Thank you.
Mr. Greger, I'm not saying that the orders were not received. I'm saying that the notice of hearing for today was not received by Kronos Properties. That's what I'm saying.
Oh. Okay, so
Then, well, if that's the case, then why are we hearing from an appeal testimony from someone who is not the appellant? Perhaps Mr. York
Well,
could enlighten us on that.
my question is, Mr. McGee, are you the agent for Kronos Properties? As you said earlier,
I am not the statutory agent for Kronos Properties.
can you give us who that is?
The statutory agent for Kronos Properties is Zeus Properties. And the
Oh,
address,
I don't like going in circles, sir. I
the
really,
address, no, Mr. Dauberton,
yeah.
the address for both Kronos Properties and Zeus Properties is P.O. Box 1051, Warren, Ohio, 44482. And that's where legal notices need to be sent. Now, why you're hearing from me now on this hearing is because I'm still here from the last hearing, which we did receive notice for.
okay, so if we're hearing this case, which is on our agenda and before us this evening, the orders on the property were relative to heat and a furnace. Jody, could you talk to us about the orders?
Yes, when I inspected the property on March 15th, 2021, the furnace was no longer working. I do believe that it was possibly due to a problem with the electric at the property, which I had already issued orders on back in December. But
Okay,
the furnace was not functioning at the time of my inspection.
okay, so I guess I'm going to have to back up to, this is very confusing, to the previous case. When that came before us initially and we granted a continuance on that until tonight's meeting, we granted a continuance for everything except the item pertaining to the furnace.
Great, and he
Now,
complied with that. He complied with that.
okay, so the
Property
furnace
complied
was
with
put in working order at
The
that
furnace
point.
was for a short period of time, put in working order, and documentation was provided to me from the company that did the work.
Okay, so initial furnace was an issue, furnace was fixed. Okay, furnace was working. Furnace now is not working. Is that what we're saying?
Correct. As of March 15th, the furnace is no longer functioning.
Okay, now, Mr. McGee, you are appealing that order. Talk to us.
So, all right. You don't want me to repeat everything I said in the last one
Not
about how-
everything, no.
Nope.
Okay, well, I incorporate everything that I said in there by reference. Kronos Properties can't get into the building because the tenant is very hostile, won't let us in there, won't let us look at anything, won't let us, won't talk to us, won't, and I can't just force my way in the property. I mean, she has possession of the property. She had a lease, which is expired now, but that doesn't mean that we can just walk in or wait till she's gone or something and then use our key to get in. We just can't do that. So she's being evicted. There's an eviction hearing that's scheduled for April 27th, which is about 7 days from now, I think. And we anticipate that we will be able to get her out about a week after that, once the bailiff schedules the set out. We can take possession on the date of the set out and then evaluate the orders and make repairs.
So we are in essence in the same spot as we were with appeal case number 521, in that you're not saying that the orders are not proper because you've not been able to get in and determine whether they are or not. You need time to be able to get the tenant out for you to be able to get in and determine if there is an issue with the furnace.
Yes.
So you are requesting then, as with the case 521, you're requesting a continuance on this one also to allow you time to get into the property.
Yes. Again, we want to fix the property, make it back a nice house, back to the way it was before. Once we get this tenant out, frankly, I think this tenant has probably damaged the property and caused most of the problems that are in there, but I don't know because I haven't been in. But we want to fix it up, make it a nice house, rent it out to somebody else.
Thank you. So, Mr. York, am I correct? We are pretty much where we were with the last one.
That's the way I see it. Yep.
Okie dokie.
I would just like to add for the record that it's been over a month, and if we add until the 27th of April, it'll be a month and a half. That the occupant and her family has resided in a property without a functioning furnace, with temperatures that have gone down into the 30s.
Has she also been residing there without a lease?
Yes.
I mean, is she like a squatter?
She's just like a squatter. I can't get her out.
She had a lease.
You know, whether she meets the legal definition of squatter, maybe not, but she's like a squatter. She's not entitled to live there anymore. She won't leave. I can't fix things because she won't let me get in there to fix it. So I need to get her out so I can fix.
Mr. McGee, when was her lease up?
The last day of release was the last day of March.
Of this year?
Yes.
Madam Chair.
So her lease was still. Go ahead.
Chair, Dwayne Greger, Housing Administrator. I'd just like to state for the record that the Housing Division doesn't make determination of the propriety of an occupant's lease,
legal status,
or legal status or right to be on a property. The Housing Division does say that an occupied property is required to meet the housing code, and all occupied properties are required to be provided with adequate heat.
Thank you, Mr. Greger. Thoughts from board members?
Okay.
Do you want to vote on this appeal this evening, or would you like to grant the continuance as we did with the previous case until our May meeting?
Ms. Williams, are you asking me or are you asking?
No, I'm asking the board. I assume I know what you would like.
Okay, yes.
Goodness. Well, if we put the extension for the one, we might as well put this on there also.
Yeah.
It would make sense, same property. And
does everybody agree with Kathy?
I agree with her, yes.
Yes.
Mr. D?
That makes sense.
Do you agree with Kathy that we would probably want to grant a continuance?
Not want, but necessary.
yeah, right.
Then is there such a motion?
Okay. Appeal case 0522-601 Talbot Avenue. I grant that we give a
continuance.
A continuance. Yeah, my tongue's not working right. Sorry. That a continuance until the May meeting so that they can get the present tenant out so that they can get in to see what's what with the status of the apartment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So, Mr. McGee, we will see you at our May meeting, which is the third Tuesday, which is, I believe, the 18th. So my understanding, if I understood what you said earlier, you will be able to get into the property before that meeting. And if the orders are accurate, you should probably be able to get much of the work done by our May meeting.
I would agree with that. If, you know, if I hire an electrician and he come in and he says, oh, we have to do X, Y, and Z or whatever, I'm sure I'll be able to have the other things done, and I can at least present a plan to Ms. Forrester about how long it's going to take for that, for the electrical work.
Sounds like a
Okay.
good one.
Good luck.
Well, thank you very much, and I thank the board for their time.
Mhm. Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Have a nice evening.
Thank
too.
you.
Okay.
Is there anyone else present in the waiting room?
There's not.
If we're ready, I'll go ahead and read through the remaining cases.
Yes, please.
Review case 5851 406 Woodland Avenue. At the Housing Appeals Board meeting of January 19th, 2021, the board granted an extension until April 20th, 2021 to allow the Summit County Land Bank to complete the foreclosure. There's been no change to the property. I was by there on April 15th, 2021. As of the 15th, there had been no additional entries to the foreclosure. As far as I know, the land bank plans to continue with the foreclosure, but I have not heard anything.
Do you know how long these things normally take? That was January, and we're now, you know, our next meeting is May.
Well, I know a lot of the things are held up in the courts right now.
Yeah.
Because they're
Are you getting any new neighborhood interest in the property?
I do know that the neighbors have contacted me a few times. They're actually plan to contact Summit County to see about purchasing the property to be the ones who buy it and rehab it. So they do not want to see it demolished.
Okie dokie.
All right.
Does the housing division have a recommendation on the length of extension that the board might want to consider at this time?
I really don't foresee anything happening in the next 30 days.
Are you suggesting 60 or another 90?
We haven't received any additional complaints. I would probably, the housing division would not object to a 90-day extension.
Thoughts from the board?
That's a 90-day extension to allow the land bank to complete the foreclosure.
Was that a motion?
No, I was just asking, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's what we're considering. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can make that a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me get a whirl here. Okay, review case 5851 406 Woodland Avenue, where we give a 90-day extension to allow the Summit County Land Bank to complete the foreclosure.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Yay, that wasn't too bad.
Okay, the next case is new case 5866, 311 Crestwood Avenue, also known as 66 Hall Street. It's on the corner lot. So one address is 66 Hall, one address is 311 Crestwood Avenue. There has been no compliance with housing orders issued against this property, which is vacant, dilapidated, the scene of police activity. It is tax delinquent, has been secured by the city and is not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and the Housing Division recommends that it be demolished with all costs assessed.
New case 5866 311 Crestwood Avenue, also 66 Hall Street, where there has been no housing orders against this property, which is vacant, dilapidated, police activity, tax delinquent, secured by the city, not registered. The deterioration condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and I move we raise with all costs assessed.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
New case 5868 1139 East Avenue. There has been no compliance with housing orders issued against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized, dilapidated. The owner's whereabouts are unknown. It is tax delinquent, has been secured by the city, and is not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and the Housing Division recommends that it be demolished with all costs assessed.
New case. I'd like to make a motion, please.
Go ahead.
New case 5868 1139 East Avenue. There has been no compliance with the housing orders issued against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized, dilapidated, owner's whereabouts unknown, tax delinquent, secured by the city and not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and I move that this property be raised with all costs suitably assessed.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
New case 5869 754 Euclid Avenue. There has been no compliance with housing orders issued against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized, dilapidated, the scene of police activity. The owner is deceased. The owner's heirs are whereabouts are unknown. It is tax delinquent, has been secured by the city and not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and the Housing Division recommends that it be demolished with all costs assessed.
New case. May I make a motion, please?
Go ahead.
New case 5869 754 Euclid Street. There has been no compliance with the housing orders that are issued against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized, dilapidated, the scene of police activity. The owner is deceased and the owner's family heirs whereabouts are unknown. It is tax delinquent. It is secured by the city and not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and I move that this property be raised with all costs suitably assessed.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
New case 5870 688 Noble Avenue. There has been no compliance with housing orders issued against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized, dilapidated. The owner's whereabouts are unknown. It is tax delinquent, has been secured by the city and is not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and the Housing Division recommends that it be demolished with all costs assessed.
New case 5870 688 Noble Avenue, where there has been no housing orders against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized, dilapidated, owner's whereabouts unknown, tax delinquent, secured by the city, not registered. The deterioration condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and I move we raise with all costs.
Second.
Second.
Before we vote, I'd like to make a minor correction to the motion. I think the motion was there have been no housing orders issued against this property. I think there's been no compliance with the housing orders issued against this property. Is that okay with the person that made the motion and the second?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, the compliance, no compliance.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Any abstention? Motion carries.
Just a note, the under mortgages, it shows even flow Eastern. To the best of my knowledge, that is not a mortgage company. They are in the business of leasing underground utilities. I've done business with them twice.
Hmm.
And I don't know if they have any claims on the property other than to access the underground utilities.
No, it was just listed as other. It wasn't listed as a mortgage company,
Okay,
but that it did show up on title.
okay.
Okay, next case.
New case 5871, 115 Roger Avenue. There has been no compliance with housing orders issued against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized. The scene of police activity is tax delinquent, has been secured by the city, and is not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and the housing division recommends that it be demolished with all costs assessed.
New case 5871, 115 Roger Avenue. There has been no compliance with the housing orders that were issued against this property, which is vacant, heavily vandalized. The scene of police activity, that it is tax delinquent and secured by the city, and it is not registered. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and I move that this property be raised with all costs suitably assessed.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Right, and the final case is waiver case 5872, 510 North Howard Street. In that the property is vacant, heavily vandalized, dilapidated, heavily fire damaged. All lien holders of record have been notified, and the owner has submitted a voluntary demolition waiver stating that the property is in such a state of disrepair as to create a serious hazard to the health and safety of the community. The deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood, and the housing division recommends that it be demolished with cost assessed.
Waiver case 5872, 510 North Howard Street. The owner has submitted a voluntary demolition waiver that stating that the property is in such a state of disrepair as to create a serious hazard to the health and safety of the community. The property is vacant, it is heavily vandalized, dilapidated, heavily fire damaged. All lien holders of record have been notified, and the deteriorated condition of this property is a blighting influence on the neighborhood. And I move that this property be ordered demolished according to the voluntary demolition waiver that has been submitted by the owner.
Very
Second.
nice.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Do we want to stop the recording? Or do we want to have our discussion?
Discussion regarding,
Whether we want to meet before or after next
Oh.
month.
Let's stop the recording.
Are we adjourned?
If
As soon as the
we don't-
chairperson says so.
If we'll have our discussion at another time. If there is nothing else for the enlightenment and good of the order, our next meeting is